Hello and welcome to the 11th Sustainability Lunch Talk. As usual, this lunch talk will be recorded and made available right after the presentation. So just give me one day to upload it if there is no technical issue. So 1 week. Please be aware that we will not take questions during the presentation, as a dedicated Q&A moment will take place at the end. So if any questions pops up during the presentation, feel free to write it in the chat, and Anouk will take care of it and share it with Céline. So my name is Mathieu Gilleron. I'm the project manager in sustainability at the University of Luxembourg. With my colleague Laurent, one of our missions is to raise awareness on sustainability among the community. To help us, we have the chance to be surrounded by brilliant minds from teaching, from research, from administration. And for the first Sustainability Lunch Talk of 2024, we wanted to talk about a subject that resonates in all of us, culture. Whether it's a new exhibition at the Mudam or a hidden sci-fi gem that only you and the authors knows, culture waves its influence into our daily existence. It generates emotions, it shapes different future, different perspectives, and it brings together people from all horizons. In France, it occupies 3 hours of the daily lives, and the sector is employing more than 700,000 people, which represent a little less than 3% of the workforce. I was looking for the Luxembourgish numbers. Maybe Céline have them, but I never find them. I know I have them somewhere, but I couldn't find them anymore.
I will send you that.
Thanks. Which is sad because I was working in the cultural department, the cultural sector, so I should have those numbers. Despite its significant impact, culture is often overlooked in discussion on the ecological transition. Yet, through history, culture has been a catalyst for change. Today, faced with the urgency of the environmental crisis, culture should take the lead in this transition. I'm doing that so that Céline doesn't feel bad when she will start speaking afterwards. It has the power to unite people, to inspire change, and to foster innovative approaches to the challenges ahead. Our host for this lunch talk will be Dr. Céline Schall. She is a research scientist in the Faculty of Humanities, Education and Social Sciences at the University of Luxembourg. She holds both a PhD in Information Communication and a PhD in Museology, Mediation and Heritage, specializing in cultural audiences and cultural mediation. I hope I said it right. Her current research at the University of Luxembourg, financed by the city of Esch-sur-Alzette, focuses on the ecological and social transition of the cultural sector. That's a lot of cultural. She joined the Cooprog team to develop a tool to reduce greenhouse gas emissions for live performances in Europe. And she's been talking a lot about this in the past year, so she's really excited to present it today, I guess. Our co-host for the day will be Anouk Vis. She will moderate this talk. She is the strategic advisor for cultural affairs at the University of Luxembourg. Anouk contributed to the prefiguration and opening of the Mudam. So Mudam is the Contemporary Art Museum of Luxembourg as head of communication and public relations. And after more than 12 years as general coordinator and artistic director at the Cercle Cité de la Ville de Luxembourg, she joined the University of Luxembourg in 2022. Without further ado, Anouk, the floor is yours.
Mathieu, thank you for inviting us today for the lunch talk that you're organizing regularly, and especially for choosing culture as a topic. And I think it's a good choice to start the year. Culture and sustainability go well together and can shape each other in many ways. Also, both might support each other and bring new perspectives to society and hopefully also drive actions forward. If I may say so, culture and ecology also have in common not to always getting much consideration. Although I strongly believe that both are vital to our society and to humanity. And on a more smaller and personal scale, as advisor for cultural affairs, as you said, I try to build bridges between different sectors, connecting artists and designers to scientists, students with staff, the uni with cultural institutions, and also grounding it to the Luxembourg ecosystem. This year, I'm happy to launch some artistic residencies at university and also continue some activities in partnership with you, with the sustainability and also the inclusion office. Just to give an example, last year we had a photo and litter pickup project, and currently we are in discussion with an association to bring awareness of the 17 SDGs to students by way of an exhibition and talks. So, as you know, many artists like the avant-garde in the past have been innovators and also at the forefront of new societal changes. In regard to challenges of our times, also today, programmers and institutions have an important role to play. And to give an example, also, I like the initiatives that a few museums like Palais de Tokyo or McCourt Museum in Quebec are taking for a more democratic and sustainable place for all by inclusion, education, and well-being through art. So well-being, which was also with eco-nursing, an interesting topic last time. So we need to collaborate more and also review our needs and means, be it in production, buildings, stocking, or transport, more generally mobility, which is really one of the major points. And I would say that's also the key word for the Cooprog project. And by saying this, I would like to leave the floor to Céline.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Mathieu. Thank you, Anouk. I will share my screen. So tell me if it's okay. Obviously, it's not. Is it? Yes. Okay. So thank you. Thank you very much. Mathieu already presented me. So yeah. Just one thing, I'm French, I'm sorry. So my accent is, as you can hear. So I wrote the main information in the PowerPoint so that you can understand something. So I hope it will be okay. So in this talk, I propose to explore the reason for the necessary transition in culture and the forms it could take. And in particular, I will discuss a research action which is Cooprog, which aims to rationalize artistic mobility in the performing art. So there are at least two ways of seeing the link between culture and ecological transition and social transition. The first one, obviously, there is no culture on a dead planet. It's a direct and immediate link, but two others are more interesting to explore. The first one is to see culture as a solution. It's a fantastic tool for artists to alert people, but it's also the support for activism. But culture also works on the imagination, here with production on the environment or diversity. And in the theater field, for example, many plays deal with changing landscape, mid-consumption, or ecological anxiety disorder, for example. And even international pop stars can raise public awareness, although their impact is obviously questionable. Culture can be seen as a source of change, of a resource, an opportunity to celebrate the transition. So we have got a whole host of ecology festival going on everywhere at the moment with concert, exhibition, artists, etc. But the cultural sector is also a problem for the planet. It is not the biggest GHG emitter, obviously, but it is the third biggest cause of mobility in France. And in Europe, depending on the source, culture generates between 2 and 6% of the European GDP, and between 5 and 8.5 million jobs. So, other examples, the estimated carbon impact of a film is 750 tons CO2 equivalent. The carbon impact of the entire French cinema would be something like 1 million tons of CO2 equivalent. It's really huge. And as you can imagine, an exhibition consumes a huge amount of materials which pollute, like carpets, that are a disaster for ecology. Also, it's difficult to assess it precisely, but one study estimated the global footprint of the artwork world at around 70 million tons of CO2 equivalent per year. And a last example, a major museum emits around 9,000 tons a year. No, excuse me. And furthermore, we can we can observe an impressive increase of the production of greenhouse gases in the sector. We have more and more institutions, especially in Luxembourg, more and more events, more and more creative work, artists who are increasingly selling their work internationally, etc. And in Luxembourg, for an example, a last example, we have 100 theater plays that are created in a year for a very, very little distribution. Each play is performed something like 3 times. So it's indeed an economy of the prototype. And there are the festivals, which are getting bigger and bigger. Here you can see the attendance of a French festival. This is just one example, but all festivals more or less aim to do the same thing, since attendance is often the only indicator of the quality of the event and for funding too. Institutions are getting bigger and bigger, attracting more and more visitors, having to promote competing territories. For example, the Louvre produces 4 tons of CO2, which is, but it's also the only, the institution that received the biggest support during the COVID crisis. And this is a sphere. Do you know the sphere in Vegas? Yes. It's a 17,000 seat indoor venue with a LED screen covering more than 50,000 meters square and 200,000 speakers. It consumes the same amount as 45,000 homes a year. And other spheres should be built in other countries, even if the London mayor has finally refused it in last November. And as you know, digital, which is 78% cultural, according to the shift, consumes an enormous amount of energy. For example, our energy requirement will increase 150 times more with 5G and metaverse. So culture is therefore a sector that pollutes and that produces carbon, but it is obviously even truer for larger institutions with international ambition. And finally, some cultural projects can also spread carbonated imagination, with big planes and big cars. A minority of cultural players have been aware of the environmental crisis for something like 30 years. The first guide to theater and ecology was published in 1994 and has been followed by numerous initiatives like Agenda 21 for Culture, Jolly's Bicycle, or Creative Carbon Scotland. But collaborative, collective awareness has been growing since the COVID crisis of 2020, and the response is being organized at various levels. There are plenty of work, plenty of book, plenty of strategy, but not a general and European strategy. The report Decarbonizing Culture in France from the SHIFT project proposes a large range of tools, among them 5 key recommendations. The first one is relocate, shorten the distance traveled. For example, encouraging company to travel rather than spectators. Another example is Jérôme Biel, it's a choreographer who sent his choreography on video to other choreographers instead of traveling around the world. The second one is slow down, reduce the number of institutions, creations, event. So this is the event for today in Luxembourg. Reduce the scale down, maybe also for a better experience for the audiences. So do you see the Joconde miniver? Eco-design costume sets, exhibition element. This is not only about reusing material, but also things, the transport, the storage, etc. There is a node project of Fundus in Luxembourg for that, but I don't know where he is for the moment. The Ministry of Culture is taking care of that. And finally, give up. We need to rethink the notion of visibility and innovation, even if it's fun. The SHIFT project report proposes a series of transparent, positive, offensive, and defensive measures to respond to the situation. And the aim is, as you know, to achieve an 80% reduction of GHG emission by combining all the 4 types of measures. So there is a lot of work to be done. Mobility is often the first cause of GHG emission source in the cultural sector, and especially audiences mobility first. It represents, for example, 95% of the cinema of a multiplex emission. For a theater on the surrounding of Paris, for example, the mobility of work and artists together could reach something like 72%, as you can see, of the greenhouse gas emission. And for the Avignon Festival, it could be 49, even if it's slightly overestimated in the light of the latest carbon footprint. So the impact of the mobility of artists and works increases with their internationalization and also with the exclusivity clause. I don't know if you know what it is, but a big majority of the institution prohibits the artist from performing again in another closed institution in a given period and in a given territory to have the exclusivity of the artist. And the impact of the artist mobility increases also because the scenographies are more and more voluminous. You can see Rammstein, etc. The mobility of artists and artworks poses a problem because, as you know, it is generally, not always, but generally, poorly organized. So very, very often, you do something like that, or even worse, like that, because the dates are not coordinated, so you have to go home between the shows, when a tour should look more like this, or even better, look like that, if some other institutions know that you are present in the area and the artist can play more. So here comes the idea of Cooprog. The idea was born in November 2022 during professional meeting in Strasbourg, where we considered how to reduce this impact of artistic mobility in a workshop. So this is the team, and this is Herman Lugan, who coordinates the project, and the team. They are a French, German, Swiss programmer in the performing arts sector, and this is me for the University of Luxembourg and And the city of Esch. Our partners are the city of Esch, the ONDA, which is a big institution in France, responsible for administrative management of Cooprog. L'Œuvre nationale de secours in Luxembourg supports my work, my research work, and Association des scènes nationales and other partners. So the idea behind Cooprog was to create a tool to reduce greenhouse gas emission linked to the mobility of artists and artwork. Okay, how can we do that? By creating an online platform for sharing ideas of programming in advance, the year before or even the year before again, before. Not necessarily all of them, but at least some of them, 3, 4, 5. The idea is to find co-programmers so that the show can tour in the region in a coherent way. So I am a theater in Esch, let's say, the Escher Theater, and I'd like to bring a company from South Africa or from Nancy in France. And I suggest to other institutions that are near me, whether I know them or not, to welcome them too. And we make sure that the tour is as coherent as possible. The co-benefit could be sharing transport costs, slowing down the rate of production of work in order to extend their distribution, because the distribution, as I said earlier, is very poor. This is even truer in Luxembourg and Belgium. A more comfortable lifestyle for artists with more diffusion and less creation, possibly with smaller audiences, and enable audiences to make fewer journeys, because to play the show, the same show at different venues in the same area reduces the mobility of audiences who travel less to attend the performance. It's also an opportunity to be together, to work together in a given area. And finally, it's an opportunity to work towards the emergence of local artists. So last November, when the idea first came up with Herman and the other, we wanted to create a platform quickly because there is an urgent need to ask, in particular to reduce greenhouse gas emission. It's one of the urgents, but it's an urgent need. This represents a major constraint for the project. And furthermore, September is the moment when programmers starts programming. So we began the project with no money, no FNR file, and we found the partners as the project progressed. So we created the platform and the research in 11 months. We also wanted the project to be simple, requiring little investment in terms of for the programmers, because we know that they are already overworked, and simplicity is one of the sine qua non condition for Cooprog success, we think. And we wanted to be a free tool to have a free tool, because it's public money that is invested. So we think it's important that users don't have to pay for it, and it's totally open source. So you can take the Cooprog structure if you want and make something else with it. And finally, Cooprog is designed as a work in progress. We give ourselves the right to test, think, evaluate them, and then come back to them. So we developed an action research with the team with a dual objective: to transform reality by developing a tool and to produce knowledge about this transformation. The idea is really to make a tool with the people who are likely to use it and not for them, because there are a lot of tools who are not used by their target audiences, including a lot of apps I saw at university, because they are not thought with expected user. So we conducted a research on the notion of cooperation and the possibility for programmers to collaborate, because Cooprog requires a full cooperation, not only mutualization or collaboration. Indeed, programming is already a cooperative activity. There are many networks. For example, programmers don't work alone in their office. And the sociology of culture showed that there is a tendency to co-produce and co-program in the cultural sector, in France, for example, because maybe it's a more difficult context. Because of financial cut, you have to collaborate with your neighbor. But it is also a very competitive activity. Venues are fighting for exclusivity, for audiences, and for territories. They usually don't share their programmation ideas, and they try to keep it secret until the end. It's really important for several contexts, several countries, for example. So, could they be interested by Cooprog? Maybe the new generation could be more willing to accept Cooprog? We didn't know. So we developed a research in 3 phases. In January, February last year, before developing Cooprog, we conducted interviews to know how the programmers are working, if they already co-program, who is co-programming, who is not, and what are the expectations and fears of Cooprog. We interviewed nearly 40 people. Then we tested the first version of Cooprog with 80 people to find out if it worked, if the economics were okay. And finally, from December to March 24, we are conducting a final evaluation of the online version. A paper will be published in the next month. So I will be really quick about the main results. So we observed that there is no need for a tool for programming, just programming, not co-programming. The activity is valued. It is a source of pleasure based above all on human contact, and the freedom to choose show is really important. But the co-programming activity could clearly benefit from the tool. We found 3 types of programmers. The first one is just over half the sample. They have a new vision of programming and a strong ecological and social commitment. They don't see themselves as competitors, and they want to work together. And they are looking for a simple tool to work together. And they seem younger, and there are more women in this group. The second type of programmers, just under half of the sample, for them Cooprog could work, but only for international artists. They have trouble to share their ideas, so they find other solutions at co-programming. For example, they are not welcoming artists for a small time anymore. So they can be really concerned about transition, but it's not enough to convince them to use Cooprog. They still have some fears, like losing their freedom, losing audiences, losing identities. But they could try Cooprog. And the third group is a really small minority. For them, Cooprog will never work because they are in a sector like music, for example, or territory that is perceived as too competitive. So we can see that the perception of territories changes from place to place. We could draw a comprehensive geography of the cultural field. For example, the big institution only collaborates with big institution, international institution. And if we want to preserve the diversity of the sector, we need to encourage collaboration between all these institutions. What we can observe also is that the success of the tool depends on a profound paradigm shift. The transition is a new tool for renegotiating all issues in the cultural sector, like relationship with artists, creation, dissemination, power issues between artists, evaluating artists and institution, evaluating the success of a venue, competition, etc. So a single tool cannot change mentality or value, and it can support change, especially by presenting the project at professional meetings, for example. For the moment, we are doing that a lot, and it's generating a lot of discussion or fights, because the change that Cooprog implies involve many change in the values of people. So how do we use this result? We use this result to develop our objective, for example. It won't work with everyone, and it won't work for every sectors. We use this result to develop our communication and mediation around the project. And this has also enabled the ONDA to design measures to support the tool. To encourage the co-programming, the ONDA is suspending certain grants to co-programmation. The question of eco-conditionality now could be raised in all involved countries, or should be. But above all, the preliminary studies has enabled us to develop Cooprog's functionality. So it is therefore open in performing arts, in particular dance and theater, but not the music for the moment. It's easy to use. It must be a safe place, so we have to moderate the platform. We can search by map or by calendar. It is adapted to the method of co-programming of programmers. And Cooprog offers the possibility to rebuild a network by following institution that you like. But the team didn't do everything that were asked to do, and we asserted our vision. Like, for example, we have an access open to all the programming structure, like third places, theater, small or large theater, museum, to encourage cooperation between the different structure. You can follow institution and be followed, but your number of followers is not visible, so as not to threaten the prescriptive power of certain people. And above all, we refused to use algorithm to suggest similar shows to other venues. The idea was to preserve the freedom of programmers and the artistic diversity. So times fly. From March to June, we developed the first version of Cooprog, and in July, after the Cooprog presentation in the Festival d'Avignon, we ran something like 80 tests during the Festival d'Avignon with programmers, artists, diffusion officers, and we gathered something like 147 bugs, misunderstandings, problem with ergonomics, vocabulary, etc., which enabled us to correct this version and to make a new one, more effective, we hope. And we created this second version, which is online since September. So it's in French and in English, but since everything is open source, you can translate it if you want in your own language. Don't hesitate. These are the commitments. Up. These are the manifesto of Cooprog. And this is the landing page of Cooprog. So as you can see, it's really simple. It's a dashboard with the projects on one side and the co-programmer registered on the platform on the other side. In the community, you can locate everyone. And this is my fake profile with my fake project. I can't show you a real one because of the RGPD. Then I want to program a show for young people, and I don't know exactly what I am going to program, so I'm looking for projects that could pass near me. I see one, I found out about it myself, okay, and I express my desire to host it in the following date. And then I get in touch with the people who are programming it. So Cooprog is really a tool. It's not doing programmation for you. Another case, I have an idea for the project, for the programmation, and I've looked for it, and no one has programmed it. So I enter it, just a few details, a planned or fixed date, and I'm waiting for contact. Okay, so as you see, it's really a simple tool. So we know there is a huge potential, but we are also aware of the limits. And above all, we don't want to turn a blind eye to think that can be improved. So that's why we are doing an evaluation of the project and with data analysis, questionnaire, and focus group. We have been contacted also by Zone Franche, which is a network for world music. They want to develop a new Cooprog for music. And we want to develop the platform, and we want to make further research about it, especially on mobility of artists, obviously, of audiences, and about artistic diversity, for example. Yes, so that was it. Thank you for 28 minutes. Thank you for your attention. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to contact us.
So I don't know if Mathieu wanted to say something. Maybe I just we go on with the questions and answers. So there was one comment in the chat. I start with Marine Henri, who thanks for the clear expose. And so what she understands is that the research shows that almost half of the programmers could be enthusiasts, and another half would use it. It also wanted to say, did you find a significant difference in the will to use Cooprog between Luxembourgish actors and other countries, or even other countries?
Yes, thank you for the question. Yes, but it's a qualitative research, so we have to be careful about it. We'll see if there is a real difference with the questionnaire, maybe, but for the moment with the interview, yes, we observed that maybe in Luxembourg it's more difficult to collaborate because there is a strong feeling of competition between institutions. And as Chapelle and Servigne says, it's when you are in a context when where everything is good, where everything is okay, you don't need to collaborate. You don't need to collaborate. You need to collaborate when there are financial cuts, for example. So I think it could be an explanation for this difference. One among others.
We have another question. So to avoid changes, cultural sector often hides between the idea that the public wants bigger events, wants more events. Is that true? Do you have information about the public, what the public really wants?
I don't know what the public really wants. Indeed, my job is really conducting public audiences studies, so I should know what public wants. But indeed, when you are asking them, what do you want? They could say many things, among them events. But and yes, events are working. It's a success. So they want events. But do we have to give them what they want? Or do we have to give something else? And as an audience, as a public, I think I would be happy to have more smaller event. For example, a festival like the Hellfest, for example, from my point of view, would be really great if it was smaller, for example. But I don't know if if institutions hide themselves behind this idea. I think since the 70s, they don't have the choice indeed, because it has been a financial and communication shift, and in the mind of institution, we have to have many audiences. We have to do many events, and we have to be visible, to be funded, to be financed. So I'm not sure they have a choice, but now they have, and they should make another choice, I think. Is that clear?
I think it's quite an interesting question and topic that can be discussed quite a lot, about what people expect and what you should program, or what you want to program. And there's also another question, what is success? What is a successful event or programming? So I also think what you said before is that often institutions or organizers are evaluated by the number of visitors or the audiences, and so that's always been a big question in the culture sector, because if it's always only, it's not like how many croissants you're selling, it's maybe about the quality of the concept, or the performance, the mastery of a technique or something. So there can be many issues and many things that can bring an emotion to people. And if it's 20, then it might not be considered as a success, but maybe for the 20 people, it's like the best thing they ever experienced. So that's always a big question. But maybe, Céline, you want to say something about what is success?
No, I think you said what has to be said. I think we have to think about it a lot, to create other criteria and attendance, frequentation, yes, attendance. But what will they be? I don't know. But we have to inform political responsibles that it's not the only criteria that matters, because they decide the fundings. So
another question, do you have quantitative or qualitative numbers on the positive environmental impact, like CO2 savings of your project?
For the project, for Cooprog project, not for the moment. It will be done in the next years. But we have the Shift project report, the Décarbonons-la-culture report, that gathered many research with qualitative and quantitative. And there is a research by Jolly's Bicycle. There are many research and studies from Jolly's Bicycles, and they are online, about the mobility. I don't know if it's answering the question.
Laurent also asks if beyond the scope of creating collaborations, are there plans to go beyond programming, like sharing materials, custom sets? So that was the idea of the funders that you were talking about. So that's something that is available in other countries, but not yet in Luxembourg, right? So
yeah. Not still, but I know there is a mission. We know, Mathieu, that someone has been asked to make a report about the needs of materialization, material materialization with performing arts sector. I think it's not about museum for the moment, but it's an ongoing project of the Ministry of Culture.
Thank you. There's also Leah who says excellent presentation, which raises some important questions in terms of cultural policies and funding. can we envisage a policy context in which funding to organizations is dependent on the capacity of organizations to collaborate and less to produce? So you were also talking about eco-conditionality. I think that's quite interesting. I also saw that in Quebec from starting this year in February, there is also action plan necessary to get funding from the Arts Council of Quebec. So that's something that people are maybe afraid to do still, especially in Luxembourg for now. But maybe you want to say something on that topic.
No, you said everything also. Thank you, Leah. Yeah, I think it's a really important question to ask for the city of Esch. We ask ourselves this question also, and there will be eco-conditionality for some of the event, not all of the event. But it's really an important. I'm not sure that politics is well aware that they can do something really important to change the overproductions of the sector. Indeed, we worked a lot with the Theatre Federation also on the surproduction. It's really a big question, especially here in Luxembourg. Yeah.
So Leah has also another interesting question. The issue that she sees that regional venues and cultural spaces outside the capital cities are more likely to be underfunded and under-resourced. So we need to shift the focus on policies on supporting more smaller and local venues and cultural centers that can welcome productions.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. Yeah, I think we should focus the policies on supporting more the little one. Yes, I think you're right, because for the moment, institutions that are the most endangered with the ecological crisis are not the little one, the small one. It's are not the big ones. The big one will, I think, be okay, but they will be supported. But if we want to keep the diversity of the cultural field, we have to make a little one collaborate to be stronger and to keep living.
Maybe I can also add that there is a will to decentralize, maybe like we could also see with Ash 22, but also the idea that the concept of the 15-minute cities, maybe you know about that. I think it's quite interesting. So the concept is about keeping the most daily necessities and services in a frame which is like reachable by a 15-minute walk or bike ride. And so I think also culture could play a role in this. So maybe not the big structures, not like the big museums we have now in the capital cities, but smaller organizers and institutions that are more locally also rooted in a community. And so because also culture gives the opportunity to connect people, to unite people, and on a smaller scale. So, which is also something maybe more on an urbanistic reflection, but which can also maybe give part of an answer here.
Yeah.
So there was another question from Sami. Does the Cooprog software platform implement algorithms to support, recommend, or optimize the collaborative programming of cultural events?
Yeah, it was the first meeting that we did with computers, IT programmers. They told us, yes, so we have planned an algorithm, and we all said no. no, we don't want algorithm. We don't want algorithm because Cooprog is being suspected to be indeed, the interviewed people told me, okay, who is doing who is putting the project in the platform? Is that Onda? Onda does want me to program them, but I am free. I don't want to program what you want me to program, and it was really valued by the programmers, the freedom. So we shouldn't optimize. We shouldn't and we didn't want to implement this algorithm. And the second reason is to preserve diversity, artistic diversity. We shouldn't be informed of a project because we programmed a similar project. Do you understand what I mean? Because I'm really confused. Yeah, the French one told me yes. I'm sure it's a good idea. It's a good use.
So I think maybe that's also an interesting aspect that, well, maybe for now, and it's important that people keep their freedom and it's not controlled, because also AI is something which is quite in the air right now. But maybe new technologies and interdisciplinarity can help more generally also in this sustainability transition, though. So maybe it's not your topic here today, but I think that's also something that can be considered, be it in the culture field or other sectors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I agree.
So Sébastien says it also seems to slow process to recondition the public. A director of a cultural institution in Luxembourg told me that the Luxembourg public is less interested in work in progress projects, for instance, but is used to consume an end result and go on to the next one. That's quite true, I guess.
Yeah, that's something I heard a lot. Indeed, we don't know. It's feelings that we have about audiences, because there are really not many audiences studies in Luxembourg about audiences. So we don't really know how is the Luxembourgish audiences, how the Luxembourgish audiences. But everybody told me that, and everybody told me it's difficult to cooperate in Luxembourg because there is no audiences in Luxembourg, very small audiences. But I'm not sure of that, indeed. But I will tell you about my other ongoing project about it. But I'm really not sure. I think we are thinking the cultural politics regarding representations that we have on audiences, and I'm not sure they are quite often just right. And we can't tell the audience, the Luxembourgish public, because there are some publics, many audiences, but I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the idea that actors in the cultural field get, but I think it's also because sometimes we are also in our cocoon, and so it's also a fact that a lot of people, a lot of audiences, different people don't even know the process. So they are just used because that's the end result. So if you go to an exhibition, to a theater play, it's only the end result that the audience will get. So it's rarely the case, but there are mediation programs to get some sneak previews, or get to meet the artists, or in maybe also a step before the end result. So different how do you say, the étape, so that you don't know about. So some projects, as we know, take years or at least months, and it just seems that you just put up a few paintings or put a few actors on a stage, and so it's not really something that people ask themselves how much time it takes or what is the research behind a whole concept or a play or whatever. So maybe that's something that the sector also should more communicate or give to see more to audiences, and then see if they are interested. Maybe they're not interested, and maybe they just want the end result at the end. So, but I think it's also something that in Luxembourg there's not really much of statistics, right? So that's also something we have to catch up with, and then also research is not always evaluated. I think, if I dare say, FNR is not really into this kind of research, which is not really with some very economical output. So so I have to see. But I think it's quite important to do also this kind of research, of course, and maybe
Yes,
the university has its role to play here.
Oh, yes, maybe.
Oh, that opens a new subject.
Yeah.
So
It's the
no,
same subject.
yeah, but I mean it opens a new new discussion.
Yeah.
No, thanks a lot, Celine. Thanks a lot,
Thanks a
Anouk,
lot.
for your insights and expertise on this very interesting and important topic. I think we could discuss this much longer, but we have a timing, and we want people to go back to work and go back to their life afterwards. We hope you all enjoyed this presentation and discussion. Once again, the record of this presentation will be made available online on the sustainability webpage of the University of Luxembourg. Before closing this presentation, I would like to invite you all to our next Sustainability Lunch Talk on March 13 on a different subject. It will be Design for Destiny, Unveiling the Path to End-of-Life Recovery. It will be presented by Dr. Jeff Mangers from the Faculty of Science, Technology and Medicine, and together with Professor Dr. Nicolas Jonard from the Faculty of Law, Economics and Finance. Don't forget to visit the sustainability webpage of the university to learn more about the coming lunch talk and to subscribe to our sustainability letter. Thanks a lot, and have a nice day. Thanks, Celine. Thanks, Anouk.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you all.